Okay, shalom, shalom. Kwam Yasha'Allah, Kuhaloyim La Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Zai, Bahashim, Rakahach Madash, the honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone rule well, and that by the Spirit taught us this beautiful truth. I just want to say Tawada to all the Akim and Akhwa that's out here sincerely keeping the laws, the statutes and commandments of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai to the best of their ability. This is Yachanan Nawah, just coming at you with another quick lesson. I'm praying that it's edifying by the Spirit. I want to start with Obadiah chapter 1, verse 2. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen, thou art greatly despised. And this is talking about you Edomites, the modern so-called white race. And I saw this article, right? This is in Fortune. It says more Americans will die than be born in 2030. CBO predicts leaving immigrants as the only source of population growth, right? Who are the immigrants? Northern Kingdom, basically. Because they're not talking about immigrants from Poland or immigrants from Sweden or Austria or immigrants from, these so-called European countries, because they don't want to come here. First off, these people are scared to death that their kids are dying in a school shooting or, road rage or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Right? So now I pulled up something that I remember Joe Biden saying back in 2020, right? And I had to go into the exact quote. Now this is what he said. Joe Biden said, in a full context of the December 2020 call, Biden said, now this is him, he was speaking with some civil rights leader in a Zoom call, if you recall it. I could go in there and grab it. I'm sure it's in here somewhere. But it says, we have to be honest. This is what he said. We have to be honest. We have to work. We have got to unite. This is the United States of America. We're the United Nations. If we don't make fundamental changes, this country is doomed. Because by 2040 or so, we'll no longer have a white European majority in America. And folks, looks, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. He continued by emphasizing collaboration across groups, noting, you've got to work with the Hispanic community because they're going to be the majority, urging black leaders to build coalitions and demographic shifts, but without any directive to preserve a white majority. So why was he saying all that? So they're trying to make it seem as if, he tried to actually clean it up, when he said, well, that's not a bad thing if so-called whites become the minority, which they probably already are anyway. I believe that, but that's just me speaking as a man, because when Esau is giving you information, or if he's, giving you data or his curriculum, you just better know that it's a fucking lie. You just got to kind of, breeze through it, filter it, and get what you can out of it. You know what I'm saying? Fact check as much of it as you possibly can, because this man is a complete goddamn liar, man. Because he's probably the minority right now. And melanin-wise, anyway, he is the minority. Because they're the only race of people on the planet with no melanin, if you get what I'm saying. So I just remembered this. I remember him saying this. And I think we might have done a lesson on it back then, too. But let's go back into this article. Because, see, Esau, he gets smart with his words and stuff like that. But we know who he's talking about. He's talking about the so-called white race becoming extinct in this motherfucker, man, because they are. They're dying off quicker than they're being born. There's been ongoing stories about that. We've been doing lessons on that for years. And it's not just the Americans. It's the ones over in the Soviet Union. They're having that same problem. And matter of fact, it's all these heathen. But see, it's the so-called white man, it affects and hits him more, because he actually feels as if without him, the world just cannot run. But the world is being ran into the ground. And he's actually created his own demise. He's the reason why. Well, actually, we know that it's the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. It's the actual reason why, things are going downhill for the asses. But the Lord used them to fuck themselves over. And that's exactly what's going on here. Let's read into some of this. And this is prophecy, man. This is how you know we're in the end, man. It says, for the first time in modern history, the United States is on the brink of losing its most basic engine of growth. More births than deaths. Right? Okay, it says, according to the Congressional Budget Office's CBO Demographic Outlook, released Tuesday. The year 2030 marks a tipping point that will fundamentally reshape the economy and social fabric. That's the year the natural U.S. population, the balance of births over deaths, is projected to vanish. See? That shit is about to vanish. Net immigration, the number of people who migrate to the United States minus the number who leave, is projected to become an increasingly important source of population growth in the coming years, as declining fertility rates cause the annual number of deaths to exceed the annual number of births starting in 2030, right? Without immigration, the population will begin to shrink in 2030. And see, Trump, you know, he's pushing all the immigrants out, right? Because he doesn't want this place to become, they don't want to get overran, man. But it's going to happen because the Lord is knocking the asses off. The Lord is the one that's in control of the spirits. He's the father of spirits, man. Right? Now, this comes to mind, too. I just thought about this. Now, this is what Trump done not long ago. Let me just put in, did Trump sign an executive order? Let me just do this. Bear with me real quick. Sign an executive order on, what's it called? IVF? Let me see. Slovakia. It says, yes, the president, Donald Trump, signed an executive order on IVF access. It directs policies, recommendations to lower costs and expand availability. And all that was standing there with him was a bunch of so-called white women. Remember when Trump, matter of fact, when he got rid of Roe versus Wade, I remember those white women. It was a white woman. They were basically like, thank you, Trump, for saving our race, basically. Because that's who it was for. See, they don't want the so-called young white woman going out to no damn Planned Parenthood and aborting no babies. They don't care about you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans doing it, though. Because, see, actually in these neighborhoods, Esau, he kills off more damn babies just with the food, water, and air than anybody, you know? And then, you know, Jake don't get the best of care here. So, but he is actually reaping what he has sown. Let me grab that real quick. See, Esau trying to knock us off the way that he has been trying to knock us off, that shit ain't done nothing but backfire. He's fallen into the ditch which he had made. Matter of fact, I'm in the Old Testament. Let me get that real quick. This is Psalm 7 and 15. Let me start there. It says, he made a pit and digged it, and is fallen into the ditch which he made. His mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealing shall come down upon his own pate, which is going to come down on his own head. He has dealt violently with Jacob, man. You know, that's scriptural. You know what I'm saying? This man has dealt violently, you know, with our people for hundreds of years, and it's now coming back to bite his ass, man. But this is the one I wanted to get. New Testament, Galatians 6 and 7. Be not deceived, Yahweh is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Now that's talking about individual men, women, and children. You know, you sow something, you're going to reap what you sown. But that also goes off into nations of people as well. So let's get that. Job 34 and 29. Shit, I don't know why my New Living Translation not popping up. Wi-Fi kicked out. Anyway, we can get it though. I do like to read in the New Living Translation here and there. But this is Job 34 and 29. Let me see. Let me start at verse 28. So that they cause the cry of the poor to come unto him, and he heareth the cry of the afflicted, which we are the poor, we are the afflicted, and we're crying to the Lord. When he giveth quietness, who then can make trouble? And when he hideth his face, who then can behold him, whether it be done against a nation or against a man only, right? So the Lord, he deals with nations of people, and he deals with the individual people within that nation. How do you think the so-called white man got over us? Because we're far better than him in anything. We're far more powerful, we're stronger, we're mentally stronger, spiritually we're stronger. See, we're under the curses of Deuteronomy chapter 28. The Lord sent us into captivity to these people. Matter of fact, it says that the Lord will send us into the hands of our enemies. So it's the Lord. He's the one that sets up nations and brings nations down. Matter of fact, let's get that in Daniel. I can go back into the article. Okay, the New Living Translation popped back up. Daniel 4:17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the bases of men. So the Lord sets up these nations, and he set Esau up. He set this base man, this stupid motherfucker. He's so damn stupid. He didn't stop this population from growing. He done made it unaffordable. You done turned your women into whores, you know, because these American women are up, and wherever you go, you know, that's the reason why a lot of these countries don't want to deal with the West, because they know that, you know, what they do, their women turn to whores, and when your women turn to whores, your country falls, your nation falls. That's the reason why you see so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans doing so bad. What did Esau do? He got at the woman first. He got at our women. He got at our women. You know, gave them that feminism bullshit. Gave them Section 8. Gave them some food stamps. Told them, hey, don't deal with that nigga. You can still fuck, though. You can have as many kids as you want. We'll put all them niggas on child support. You can do all that. But, you know, just don't have that man in that home to give them no real direction. You raise them. You know what I'm saying? And we'll continue to raise them once you get done. You know what I'm saying? Once we get their asses in our prison cells, so to speak, right? So let's go back. Let me go back off in here. Let's see, you know, why Trump, you know, let's see if they got anything in here as to why he done it. See, it says, supporters praise efforts to address high IVF costs, while critics called it a PR stunt, lacking mandates for insurance company coverage. Well, you see, matter of fact, let me see. Because this was really for the so-called white woman. Let's put in what is IVF to get a better understanding. And I can go back to that article, Salaki. We just moving in the spirit. In vitro fertilization, IVF, is a medical procedure where eggs are retrieved from a woman's ovaries and fertilized by sperm outside the body in the laboratory. The resulting embryos are then transferred to the uterus to establish pregnancy. See, this is what they were doing, and it wasn't none but a whole bunch of so-called white women standing on the podium with him, praising him. You know, so they're trying to make this shit affordable for the so-called white woman to get pregnant, because they're not getting pregnant. You know. And it's really got to do with the, you know, the air, the diets here, the water, shit like that. But overall, we know that this shit, how about Shemiah Shai, that's breaking their asses down, which is a beautiful thing, right? So we don't even have to go no further into that. Let's come back out. Salakia, damn, I ain't even mean to do that. I don't even think, well, we don't need no more out of there. I just only went in there to get what they was talking about with Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying? Because the way he worded that shit, you know, he wants you niggas. You're talking about cooperate with the so-called Hispanic population. You know, we ain't got no problems with them. It's you, the motherfuckers, that we got the problems with. We ain't got no problems with the so-called, because those are our people. They ain't never fucked with us. We not fucking with them. You know, we got the same common enemy, and it's just you fucking Edomites. Okay, so it says net immigration, the number of people who migrate. We got that part, did we? We can get it again. Net immigration, the number of people who migrate to the United States minus the number who leave, is projected to become an increasingly important source of population growth in the coming years, as declining fertility rates cause the annual number of deaths to exceed the annual number of births starting in 2030. And we're praying we're not here that long. We're praying this shit ends this year, you know, for real. Go ahead and get on with that goddamn microchip, man. And we already know, I think that what's that in the continent of Africa, one of them countries, you know, they talking about chipping the damn baby as soon as they're born. So that's coming down the pipe. That's all we need in that World War III, because all that shit is popping right now. Okay, it says from that point on, every additional person added to the U.S. population will come from immigration, a demographic milestone once associated with aging countries like Italy and Japan. See? And China kind of going through it too. Because ain't nothing in Japan but young ass kids and old ass people. It's really like no in between in a sense. You know, they got some teenagers and shit, you know, but you know, 20, but it's rare. I mean, it's not rare, but it's low. Okay, it says the shift is striking, not only for what it says about America's rapidly aging society, but also for how soon it is expected to arrive. Just a year ago, many demographic forecasts, including the CBO's own forecast, placed this crossover well into the 2030s or even the 2040s. That's what Joe Biden was talking about. The updated outlook from CBO moves the timeline forward by nearly a decade. That's the Lord, man. That's the spirit. That's spiritual right there. This rapid acceleration, the CBO said, is driven by the double squeeze of declining fertility and an aging populace, combined with recent policy shifts on immigration. CBO analysts have drastically lowered their expectation for the total fertility rate, now projecting it to settle at just 1.53 births per woman, well below the 2.1 replacement rate needed to stable population. At the same time, the massive baby boomer generation is reaching ages with higher mortality rates, causing annual deaths to climb. Yeah, because, you know, Esau gave y'all that jabby. He gave them old ass people. See, the people that ran out and got them jump shots a couple of years back here, rolled up their sleeves, was a bunch of older people, because they were the ones that were, you know, pretty much terrorizing to getting it, you know. Well, you're disproportionately more affected because of your age, this, and this. They went out, they rolled their sleeves up, they took them shots, and they took them boost mobiles. Boost. And a lot of those people got to, you know, they out of here. And now the ones that's actually still, you know, I noticed it when I was at the job, at the plantation, when everything went down, I started coming, and I've never seen that before. I started to see, you know, like, you know how they would have your obituary hookup. And I used to go into the cafeteria, and I was seeing all these so-called white men, old ass, you know, so-called white men, you know what I'm saying? I was on that wall. Every other week it was one. I was like, damn, what the fuck going on? They have it right by the coffee machine, so you couldn't miss it. You know? And that was around when they took them jabbies. And then next thing I know, they came off in there and they started setting up the cafeteria like a damn like a hospital wing. And they started taking a lot of blood. So they do blood drives every fucking month now. And I'm like, well, why the fuck is y'all, you know, they never done it before. Like, what the fuck is y'all doing with all this blood? You know, and who knows? Maybe it's for, you know, the cause that they're saying. But it you know, they could just be testing that blood to see, you know, what's going on with people, you know? So anyway, let's get back to the article. And that's just me speaking as a man. Okay, but it says the timeline further compressed following the passage of the 2025 Reconciliation Act, which increased funding for more ICE agents. See that? See, Esau, he knows what's going on. He knows that they're about to be outnumbered. He knows that they're outnumbered already. He knows that they're small in numbers and they're greatly despised, just like the scripture says, man. Okay, but it says the 2025 Reconciliation Act, which increased funding for more ICE agents and immigration judges to process cases faster, resulting in approximately 50,000 immigrants in detention daily through 2029, CBO said. The office calculated that these provisions will result in roughly 320,000 fewer people in the U.S. population by 2035 than previously estimated. The new projections show that the U.S. population growth will steadily decelerate over the next 3 decades until it finally hits zero in 2056. Ain't gonna be no fucking 2056. You motherfuckers gonna be in captivity at that point. And guess what? At that point in the game, your population is gonna probably more than well, you know, me speaking as a man, I'm pretty certain your population growth is gonna blast through the roof, because we're gonna be breeding y'all asses for slaves. Straight up, man, because you're going into captivity. For most of the 20th century, the population grew at close to 1% a year. A flat population would represent a historic break from that norm. And it's all because of Esau. Matter of fact, let me get another scripture. It's all because of Esau. This is the results of so-called white people running shit. This is what happens when the wicked run the earth, man. Proverbs 29:2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked bear rule, the people mourn. Right? As a matter of fact, let me get this one in the Apocryphal. That speaks on children. You can't even enjoy your fucking children in this man's kingdom, man. At least we can't. And Esau not enjoying their children either. You fuck around, you know what I'm saying? Your damn kids take you out of this world, send your ass back to the spirit world. Ecclesiasticus 25:7 in the Apocrypha, also known as the Book of Sirach. There be 9 things which I have judged in my heart to be happy, and the 10th I will utter with my tongue. A man that have joy of his children, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. See? A man that have joy of his children. You can't have joy of no children in this place, man. It's best you not have no children if you can avoid it. Especially right now with what's coming down the pipe. Because as soon as you have that child, you're having a child within captivity to the so-called white race. It just is what it is. And you're not going to be able to enjoy that child. Not fully. And it says, and he that liveth to see the fall of his enemy. That's beautiful to us. To see the fall of these people like this. This is beautiful. You can't get a more beautiful story than this right here. Well, no, I ain't gonna say it like that. But hey, this is beautiful. The economic consequences of this shift are hard to overstate. While the number of retirees swells, and you know they talking about so-called white people, they just not mention them in the article. Because they getting rid of the immigrants. The only people they mentioning is the immigrants. So this must mean that, okay, this is affecting the so-called white race. While the number of retirees swell, the pool workers funding the social safety net and caring for the aging population is narrowing. And you know, people don't these people don't give a fuck about nothing no more. They don't care nothing about no elderly, man. You one of your elderly grandparents fuck around and go to one of these hospice centers or wherever, they're gonna be treated badly. Unless you just super duper got some money to get them to one of those, you know, them great ones, so to speak. But even then, you know, they're treated like shit. Okay, it says Americans age 65 or older are the fastest growing segment of the population, pushing the old age dependency ratio sharply higher. In 1960, there were about 5 workers for every retiree. Today, that ratio was closer to 3 to 1. By mid-2050s, the CBO projects it will fall to roughly 2 workers per retiree. Right? The contraction will have significant implications on the federal budget, including outsized effects on Social Security and Medicare, placing pressure on those trust funds which rely on robust base payroll taxes that a stagnant population cannot easily provide. Through. Further, because national GDP is essentially the product of the number of workers multiplied by their individual productivity, the loss of labor force growth means the American economy will have to rely almost entirely on tech breakthroughs and AI to drive future gains. This may be happening ahead of schedule, as continued weak employment growth in December showed a jobless expansion, in the words of KPMG chief economist, as Fortune previously reported, and that's the article. You know, we could get some of these comments, you know what I'm saying? Because, hey, you know, Esau, you know, this place is doomed. This person says, what about American women? Aren't they a source anymore? Well, nobody want to deal with 2 American women. It's not worth it. And then at the same time, the American women, man, hey, they about aborting these damn kids. They don't give a shit. They not, and they can't afford them. They want to be, you know, slut buckets on the weekend. They ain't trying to settle in and get married. And again, they just can't afford the shit. Somebody says no American women are getting smarter than to have children they can't afford. Children cost a fortune. Well, yeah, that's true. You know, but at the same time, too, these women, man, they you know, they want their careers. You know, they want to do their own thing. They want to be fucking influencers. You know, they want to, you know, just be on damn TV. They want to be seen. Then once they're seen and actually do attract a man, he pump them up, and she's headed to Planned Parenthood. Okay, but let's see here. Yep, again, somebody says who can afford children. This is one of the main things. Now, Trump and them, yesterday, I seen that article. I done a little lesson on it, you know, spoke on it. And they're talking about $1.7 trillion in 2027 towards war, towards motherfucking weapons, man. $1.7 trillion. You could set up a whole community of people, you know what I'm saying, and give, you know, give them land, give them homes, teach them how to you know, grow things, grow a garden, you know, Give them fucking farming equipment. Here you go. Your farmers is through. Your farmers are committing suicide. These old ass so-called white people that own these farms, they've been losing these farms. Them motherfuckers been jumping off buildings. But here you go. You got 1.7 trillion to put into war. When you can put, you never hear them talking about putting money towards peace. That's one thing about Esau. You don't ever hear him talking about putting money towards peace. Never. Never. These motherfuckers are spending trillions. Ain't no telling how. I think America has spent maybe 50 to 100 trillion dollars, man, on just weapons over the past 5 to 6 decades. That's where all the money going. You straining your people, you overtaxing the shit out of them, and then at the meanwhile, you know, you're dying off quicker than you're being born because you don't have sense, man. This man, he's totally opposite of what the Lord says, man. He's the reverse guy. We keep calling him that. We gonna keep saying it. He's the reverse Uno guy. Anything this motherfucker do is it goes reverse of what the Lord said. The Lord said to be fruitful and multiply. This guy right here came up with the condom. You know, contraceptives, the morning after pill, Planned Parenthood. You see what I'm saying? So anything that the Lord says to do, he says don't do it and promote it. Whatever the Lord says do, he says don't do and promote it. Right? Let me get that one in. I'm gonna end out here in a sec. But hey, I think this is beautiful shit. If you ask me, I say rock on out. God damn it. We're praying that we make this journey, man, and we get the fuck out of here. Preferably in one piece, man, in them chariots. You know? Isaiah 5:20. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. And that's exactly what this man does. He switches and changes everything upside down. He's not about order. He's about disorder. The Lord says order. He says disorder. He done pushed himself out of the world. Now you got these people. I forgot what's these people. Salakia. Let me go back in here. It's one of these new little AI app hookups I've been using called Perplexity. But let's just see here. You know what? Let me do it like this. Is it a white race? I'm just gonna put in, is it white people that want their own towns? Now this been in the news as of late because they want to just be amongst themselves and repopulate to the best of their ability. Let me see here. Should be popping up. Away from everyone else. But they all think like this anyway. It says, yes, recent efforts to create white-only towns or communities in the U.S. have primarily involved white people seeking racial separation. Groups like Return to the Land and Arkansas's Ozark Mountains explicitly aim to build such enclaves for those of European ancestry, excluding others like black people, Jews, LGBTQ. See, they always trying to put you niggas, they always trying to put you in the mix and midst of these damn heathen, man. Right? But mainly, and see, they're trying to get away from the so-called Jews, but those are Edomites too. Those are Edomites too. They're just, the more of the greedier sort. I'll put it that way. But this is the thing. These are the people. Matter of fact, let's see here. If they actually got a part. Here's the article. This was in the Independent. And they plotting expansion. They already got these towns. Whites only community plotting expansion to another state as its efforts to build a white nation continues, because they're seeing that they're falling off, man. And mainly, Becky, Snowfall, the Snow Bunnies is in the hood, man. They getting rotted down by Jake, and they having these caramel colored babies. You got prejudiced ass so-called white people in their 70s, 80s. Now all of a sudden they joyful and bouncing a black baby on their knee. And it's crazy. They get it, man. Here you go, the finest of your women sitting courtside with some nigga at the NBA game. That's a bad look for Esau. There was a time, we talking about not even that long ago, not super duper long ago like that. There was a time where, I mean, even in my generation, you know what I'm saying, as far as when I was born, there was a time, where shit, you dealing with a Becky, you had to be slippery, sneaky for real. It was going on, but we talking now, let's go back 100 years, 70, 80, 75, 80, 100, 100 years back. You got caught with one of them women, you got caught looking at one of them, even though they wanted it, because it wasn't like, when you look at movies like Mandingo, those white women were dealing with them slaves. Matter of fact, I want to say, I'm trying to think, was that Mandingo? It could have been another movie though, but it was another movie, possibly. I'm trying to think with all those, you got to go back and watch some of them slave movies back in the 70s. That's when Esau was really putting it out there. He don't do that no more. You know what I'm saying? He don't really give you that real drama in those movies. But back in the 1970s, they was a lot more, they was coming out of, the 50s, they was really starting to show you, oh yeah, we're in power. We're going to show you what's good, how we actually treated these niggas. So they would do movies like Roots, you know what I'm saying? All these different types of movies. But anyway, one of these movies, can't remember exactly which one it was, but this white woman, and she just owned a plantation by herself. She didn't even have no fucking man. White woman owned a plantation, and she was going to the she was buying slaves from the auction, and she was picking out one to bounce on her ass every night. Because in the movie the guys would be kind of snickering and laughing because she was like a fat bitch. She was like a fat white woman. You know what I'm saying? But she was sending out, into the cabin, like you next, you coming in here tonight. So every night she had one of them slaves rotating on her big ass, man. And that shows you too the power and might, that Jake had no power and might, because here you go, you got a woman, she ain't had no guards. She ain't had no so-called white men with rifles on no horses, you know what I'm saying? She just basically just owned the land. If I'm not mistaken, I'm gonna have to go back, it's been a while. But she wasn't worried about being, attacked, or, her slaves running away, or any of that shit. Like, she had that shit under control. But thing of it was the guys would always be snickering, because, you know what I'm saying, they already know, okay, yeah, tonight, your turn. You know what I'm saying? And she had them, and you better had done her good, because she knew what it was. You know what I'm saying? She wanted that, And then when you look at the movie Mandingo, when they buying this guy named Mandingo, it was a so-called white woman at that auction. But she, he ended up getting, being sold to a so-called white man, which he ended up getting the so-called white man's woman pregnant, because she wanted some rod. She was sending out to the barn. Ended up that baby came out looking like a chocolate damn raisin, and that white guy lost his goddamn mind. He lost his mind in that movie. He fucked her ass up. Matter of fact, he poisoned her. Get rid of the baby, you know what I'm saying? And he tried to make Mandingo get into a boiling pot of hot water. Matter of fact, he pushed him over in that bitch and jugged him with a damn pitchfork and held him down in there. He's like, get in that water. He's like, I ain't getting in that water, I ain't getting in that pot, massa. But that water was bubbling. I don't know how they pulled that scene off. But saying that, it was a white lady at the auction. And I'm gonna end out. White lady at the auction, and she ran up on the auction block, and she just started grabbing the guy's rod. And the white man was like, "Good God, woman, have some decorum." But that was the reason why she was there. Matter of fact, it could have been the same movie. That was the reason why she was there. She wasn't, she was gonna get some work out of them. But she was getting the best of both worlds. She's gonna put their asses in the field and make sure that their asses had enough energy to pound her ass down at night. And a lot of white, when you be surprised, man, because a lot of Jake got hung, got castrated, all different kinds of stuff was happening to Jake. And matter of fact, in that Mandingo movie, the one, the guy that kind of watch over the slaves, like that one nigga guy that watch over the slaves. He was trying to tell him, hey, look, don't be dealing with the white woman. But he had no choice, because she was like, if you don't fuck me, I'm gonna go and tell my father that you raped me anyway. So he ain't had no choice but to hit her. which is but man, he and that baby ended up coming out black. Hey, watch it. It's a movie called Mandingo. I think it came out around 1976. If you ain't never seen it before, I know that's a little off subject, but we talking about fertility here. And you got to realize that back in those days, that's why we don't go by skin color when it comes to this truth, because your seed line goes through your father. And there's a lot of chocolate covered Edomites, and there's a lot of basically, there's so-called white people that are actually so-called black people. And there are so-called black people that are actually so-called white people. Because it's not a skin color thing. Because you had Jake was hitting some of those white women, and they was having those babies. Babies just coming out a little chocolate. They just throw your ass in the field. Then those white men was hitting, the black women. The babies just coming out chocolate. Even though it's his seed, they just throw their asses in the field, work the shit out of their asses too. Or they'll let them, come into the house. They'd be like house slaves if they was lighter skin. But you get it. Anyway, this is what Esau's trying to do. They're trying to start their own towns and shit. They want to get away from you niggas, and they want to go ahead and populate because they get it. They understand. They get it. And we say, hey, rock out. It's you motherfuckers that came and got us. We wasn't trying to be around you to begin with. You fucked yourself over. But anyway, I'm going to end out there. Pray that this lesson was edifying. Kwam Yasha'Allah and the Bible Ball. Hey, continue on praying for the downfall of Esau's kingdom. Because these kinds of articles right here show you that this man is done. With that, Shalom.